Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. So, I want to talk about the Dante and Michael scene because, for a while we've watched Michael and Sonny be in this really bad place because of decisions that Sonny and Nina has been making, specifically Sonny. When Michael felt like he turned his back on his family to, be with Nina, to sit there and protect Nina, this, that, and the third. But today, I feel like this, at the end of their scene, Michael pretty much declares war. Now, when Dante comes over there, Dante is like, listen, maybe I should sit there and try to get you two into a room. Y'all can talk it out. Y'all can hash it out. I get it that Sonny has his faults, but no one is perfect. Um, but Michael is still insisting on the fact that Sonny is not the man that he was, as far as his code. Not putting his family first, disrespecting the Corinthos name, disrespecting what he stood for, what he practically taught Michael as a child, as far as loyalty and honor and family and things like that. He feels like he's abandoned all that, and by doing that, he's betrayed his family. He's betrayed his mother. So when Michael was like, "I'm gonna take everything from him," I was like, "Wow, okay." I mean, I haven't seen Michael get this upset with him since Sonny killed since Sonny killed AJ. There's so many damn names. Um, since he killed AJ. Now with that, when he declared war on him, then I completely understood that. I 100% understood that. I supported that. I didn't watch most of it, but by the time I came in there, he was going full throttle. This, on the other hand, is a lot more complex, and so the fact that he's like, I'm drawing blood, I'm taking everything from him, and so this way, when the next time that the PCP look for him, he's not going to have anywhere to hide. And I'm like, wow. Even Dante was like, whose house did I just walk into? You know, and I respect Dante for trying to broker a peace between these two. Because Dante's like, listen, he's not perfect, and I get that he made some fouls, like a lot of them, but at the end of the day, that's still your father. You should be able to sit there and come to some sort of middle ground. But after today's episode, there is no such thing as a middle ground. There's just war. And you saw in the previews that Sonny was like, "Yo, is that a warning?" Because Dante probably talked to him about Michael practically declaring war at this point. So it's gonna get worse before maybe at some point down the line it may start to get better. Maybe we'll see. I mean, hell, Michael was defensive from jump. I think Dante asked him a question about business or whatever, and Michael kind of just went at his throat. He was like, "Oh well, I just have a lot on my plate, between the custody battle and ELQ and Sonny and everything like that." But yeah. So let's talk about Jordan and TJ for a minute. So they meet up. Well, she comes to see him at the hospital. And you get to talking about Marshall, and TJ's all upset with Curtis for the fact that Marshall left because Curtis tried to go behind his back and get information that he felt like it was a betrayal and everything like that. But Jordan says something that was like, why are you not listening to her? Jordan was like, maybe he probably had his reasons for why he went, why he got the information that he did. maybe he didn't sit there and trust Marshall. Marshall, he left him when he was a child. He came back and gave him very little to no information. And so maybe maybe Curtis is sitting there trying to protect his family, protect himself from whatever skeletons that Marshall had going on. But it's almost like it went in one ear and out the other. It was kind of odd. It's like I sat there and watched it, and Jordan said something that was really profound. It was like, okay, this is going to get to him. And then it just went in one ear and out the other. I was like, are you kidding me? And long story short, TJ was like, he needed help to try to find Marshall. And, Jordan was like, oh, well, it's unethical and this, that, and the third. But, you can sit there and do it. You're smart, I mean, I know you're a doctor, but you can figure out clues and stuff. So they go through this whole thing where, TJ brings out the clarinet. There's a receipt. It's from Brooklyn. So it's a start. And, he got some time off. He's like, all right, I'm going to go down there and try to sit there and find him. And I'm just like, we're all looking at this whole situation. Well, most of us is looking at the situation, and it's like, TJ, you're so wrong about the way you're going about this. It is not even funny. He's mad at he's mad at Curtis for practically pushing Marshall away. But Marshall is a grown ass adult. If Marshall really wanted to sit there and be a part of their lives, he would have stayed. Or at the very least, he would have left and kept in contact with TJ. I mean, seriously, let's think about that. Okay, you're upset with Curtis because Curtis went behind your back, got information that you didn't want. Okay, whatever. That's still immature, but what about TJ? You left him too? Like, really? It's one thing to sit there and leave Curtis, but that's supposed to be your, well, from what people are sitting there telling me, that technically that's not biologically his grandfather, but whatever, fine. You're just gonna sit there and leave your grandson too because you're so mad at Curtis that you decide to cut your grandson out of your life as well? And you don't see any problem with that? You're not offended in the slightest? No, I gotta sit there and find grandpa. Okay, alright, that makes sense. I want to talk about Valentine and Martin because it was something that was really interesting what Valentine said. Valentine was like, why am I paying you for? Valentine was sitting there getting together with Martin because he wanted to sit there and try to come up with a strategy or, have Martin, which he pays top dollar for, to come up with a way so this way he can still be, on board ELQ and everything like that. And, Martin was like, oh, well, you left this, that, and the third, and you gave them an opening, and you gave them time, and, it's not really much moves you could sit there and do. And I'm like, and how is this man actually, how are you paying this man so much money and he has not found a loophole or anything like that whatsoever? They run across Olivia and Leo. And then afterwards, because here's the thing. Olivia tells, because here's the thing, Olivia assumed that Valentine knew about the merger. I don't know if he really knew about the merger or not as far as Aurora and ELQ. But, she blurted it out. And then Valentine was like, oh, there's a merger? And she was like, I thought you knew. And I'm sitting there thinking, if he didn't know, you understand how much you can actually screw him over by just blurting out that type of information that was not public whatsoever? I'm still thinking about that scene. I'm still just like she just had a total dingbat moment, and she just like, oh, I thought you knew. You thought he knew about sensitive information, about sensitive business information? Really? That okay? All right, cool. But he was like, yeah, of course I knew, and then he left. I don't know if he really knew about the merger or not. But one of the things he says is, if I can get Quartermain on my side, And then he's like, well, who gains to lose from this merger? And he realizes it's Ned. And I sat there and I was like, this is why I like Valentine. The dude is smart. He's very clever. And, when the GH writers want them to actually have some of these characters have a brain, they can do that. But then I'm also sitting there thinking, how much did he pay Martin to sit there and sit on his ass and not actually do anything just for Valentine to sit there and come up with his own solution about still trying to be on the board, as far as CEO or whatever? And yet Martin couldn't do anything because he's probably sitting there thinking, I'm not even going to go with a crude joke. My point is, he figured out his own solution, and it was a solution that he was paying you to come up with, and you didn't have a damn thing. That's that's money well earned right there. I really feel like Olivia needs to kind of just tone it down a little bit when it comes towards Leo and the speech. I mean, the poem and everything like that. She's like, oh, well, I'm going to sit there and hear the poem again just to make sure you got enough practice. And Leo was like, yo, listen, I'm good, and I'm just looking at this whole thing. I was like, remember when he freaked out and he ran upstairs and you were just like, oh my goodness, what did I do? And now you're back at it, just hammering in again. And of course, he wanted to sit there. She wanted to make sure that Ned was coming to the meeting. I mean, to the event, and not just be all about ELQ stuff. And Ned, here's the thing: I understand that Ned feels like he's being pushed out because you got Drew and Michael that's having these meetings, and they're doing it without him. And when Brooklyn comes in, and Brooklyn's like, "I think that's a good idea," Ned is like, "They got to you, didn't they?" And of course, Brooklyn is like, well, they work together, so it makes sense for them to sit there and talk about this stuff and come up with more strategies and stuff like that. And like, you're missing the point, Brooklyn. It seems like everyone is missing the damn point, you know? In this show, I'm like, the fact of the matter is, you're sitting there saying, well, you're going to have a place in this company. Really, bro? Like, you're going to have somebody that's like younger than him walk up to him and be like, don't worry, they're going to have a place in this company. You're having these meetings behind his back. He feels like he's being pushed out. You're not really giving him any communication. And now his own daughter is, on board with an idea, with a strategy that you're not really too comfortable with. So how the hell do you think he's supposed to feel? But with that being said, they talk for a little bit, and, Brooklyn kind of convinces him, you know what, EOK can wait until tomorrow. Let me go there, be with my son, and, support him during this whole thing. So they do that. Drew tries to find, a middle ground between, him and Sonny. I mean, between Michael and Sonny. Um, but Sonny's like, listen, he feels that Michael turned his back on him. And he feels like the stuff that's going on between him and Carly is stuff that's going on between him and Carly. Of course, he does sit there and say, oh, well, I wanted us to sit there and stay married, but she wanted to divorce, like she gave up. Like, bro, you literally cheat. I, I just don't understand how he always gets to this point of making it seem like it's Carly's fault for not working out the relationship. When the minute that she didn't do what you said to do at the time that you said for her to do it, you decide to jump in bed with another woman. And not just any woman, okay? A woman that Carly despises. And then try to make it seem like it was her fault. Every time he does that, I swear it pisses me off. It pisses me off. As a Sunny fan, it's one of those things where I'm just like, bro, I can't co-sign that. I know that we all supposed to have this whole bro code thing, but I can't co-sign that. Like, I just can't. So, Drew tries to play mediator. He's even like, yo, listen, how about I get you two in the room? I can mediate, we can talk, whatever. It gets to a point where they start talking about ELQ and Valentine and everything like that. And Sonny's like, yo, listen, I want to help. I want to help. He did call he did sit there and call Michael to be like, hey, listen, I know things are rocky, but I still got your back during the court trial or whatever. But yeah, Sonny wants to sit there and try to help. And, Drew's like, listen, we're friends and everything like that, but no, no, that's not, we ain't doing that. You good. I got his back. We're good. Um, I guess at some point they start this whole thing, this whole event that's going on. Sam tries to get Willow's mind off of everything. They did confirm a DNA test confirmed that, they're not related, Harmony and Willow, which she already knew, but it still was like it was kind of a lie. So Sam tried to get her mind off of it by taking her to this children's thing that was going on. And I feel like I don't know if Willow actually said it because I'm going to be honest, I was kind of bored with those scenes, but Sam got the impression that Willow wanted to find out who her actual bio mom was. And Sam was like, listen, you go down that rabbit hole, you have to prepare yourself for answers that you may not want to hear. Um, Even if it turns out to be a really terrible person, that's your actual bio mom, um, you just gonna have to sit there and face it. So she's still not 100%. She's still going through a lot. And I guess she went to go use the restroom to kind of, wash her face because, she's going through a lot. So Nina and Curtis decided to get together because Curtis, he was reading a piece about what they did with Nina. And he wanted to make sure that she was good. He came in the office and he was like, how's everything going? And Nina was like, oh, I'm fine, I'm good. And Curtis was like, you sure? Because I read the article and kind of thought I was going to be walking in there to a different version of you, like a sobbing, sad, or angry version. And you seem like nothing can phase you. After about 2 minutes of that, she, kind of confessed that she was freaking out about it. As far as the judge, the trial, and everything like that. She's worried about it. And what it really comes down to is she feels she doesn't want to lose another person, another child. Between the fact that she didn't really get a chance to raise now, and she feels like she could have made a difference in her life if she raised her. Because she's like, hey, listen, I'm not going to sit there and try to make excuses for her. Which is odd because she tries to make a lot of excuses for herself, but whatever. She's like, I understand that she did a lot of bad things. But if I was there, if I raised her, she might have been different. She might have turned out to be a different person. And I kind of look at that and I'm like, yeah, that's true. But, at the end of the day, when you become an adult, you kind of got to stop using um, your past as a crutch or as an excuse to just do whatever the hell you want because you came from a rocky childhood life. Because there are a lot of people that come from broken homes and things that happen to them, and it doesn't give, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people that turn out to be good people despite their upbringing. So, this whole, oh, well, Nell was a victim of circumstance and this, that, and third. And it's like, I'm not trying to hear that. Okay? I ain't trying to hear it at all. Okay? And I'm not gonna lie, it pisses me off when people go that route. Okay, it pisses me off when people go that route. It annoys me, um, when you got a lot of now sympathizers that be like, well, she had a really rough childhood. I'm like, a lot of people had a really rough childhood. What's your excuse when you became 21? I mean, now was more than 21, but I'm like, what's your excuse then? You know? So I'm not with it. Yeah, we all know that it could have turned out differently, but it didn't. So like, there's no point of playing a what if game. Um, but she's worried, and she doesn't want to lose another child. And this is why she feels she's fighting so hard to have a place in Wiley's life. And I ain't mad at her for that. I'm not, because here's the thing. Even though that Nina has done some recent horrible things, and even though that when Nina did get a chance to visit Wiley for a little bit, she made some fouls. Okay? These were fouls that affected Wiley. These were fouls that affected Willow. Okay, but at the end of the day, limited supervised visits and then just kind of build up trust and things like that over time to make sure that that stuff doesn't happen. I feel like that would have been the best compromise, and that's what Nina was trying to do. As much as I do not like Nina, and at this point I think everyone knows how much I don't like Nina, she did try a compromise, and it didn't work. And she's like, "Listen, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do." And so she gets determined, and you know, um, now here's something that's interesting. Because Nina was sitting there talking about how dirty they're sitting there fighting, and Curtis is like, "Why don't you sit there and play the Sunny angle?" The guy is an alleged mobster, and yet he spends all sorts of time with Wiley. You can sit there and go that angle, but Nina's like, "No, no, 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 we ain't, we're not doing that." Just, no, not doing that. And I gotta sit there and say, and the reason why I did this scene last is because I felt like this was the weakest part of the episode. It was a necessary part of this episode. It was a necessary part of this episode because it caught people up on everything that's going on. They between Jocelyn and Carly. With the whole Nina trial and the stuff that Nina has done. They talked a lot about that. They also talked a little bit about Esme and Trina and stuff like that, but they mostly went over Nina. They also talked about Sonny, and Josh was like, how could Sonny sit there and do that to you, claim to love you, but yet do all that stuff to you? Now, in the past, when there was a time when they had a disagreement between between those each other. And I felt like I understood that Jocelyn was, asked her mom and stuff like that, and she wants to sit there and defend her. But I felt like there was times where it was like, Jocelyn, do me a favor and just kind of leave the room, you know? Um, because I felt like she was out of line. The way she was sitting there talking to Sonny and the way she was going at Sonny. And there was one point where, and to this day, granted, I like Jocelyn now, but there was one point where she pissed me off when she was like, "Oh well, would you?" She told Carly like, "Oh, would you want me to sit there dating somebody that disrespects me like Sonny disrespects you?" And I'm like, "Whoa, see, this is exactly where a child needs to stay in a child's place. She's a grown ass adult. I get that she loves her mother, but she needs to stay in her goddamn place because that was one of those things where it's like." There's a line. There's a certain line, and I felt like she crossed that line. And I get because they're so close that they're used to sharing things and things of that nature. But I felt like Carly really should have put her in her place, because she got way too overly involved in the conflict between her and her mother. Now I understand that, and to be well, not to be fair, but I only started liking Jocelyn after she physically fought now. Like up until that point, I couldn't stand Jocelyn with a passion. After the whole, whooping Nell's ass, yeah, then I actually liked her. But yeah, they talk about that. It's just more catching up than anything else. And I feel like, again, I feel like it was necessary, but it was also like, yep, we're still going. I mean, they gotta sit there and use that new set as long as they have it. So they've been using it all week, and I guess it's a good sign. It's a good sign that they are getting more money and more of a budget to sit there and be using more sets and stuff. So that's cool, and they have been using it in a very appropriate way. When you really stop to think about it, Amy decided to ditch work to go get her nails done. Finn taking his daughter to also get a manicure herself. Scott being there. Some mother daughter time with Carly and Jocelyn. So they've used this set well. I think the only other time that I actually really enjoyed a new set was the breakage room And they were just breaking stuff. It's that's new, but some people do have anger issues, and I feel like that's probably a thing for them. I don't understand it, but hey, listen, whatever works for you, do it. If it is a safe way, and it's safe for you and it's safe for others, do it. I'm with it. I feel like that's about it. I do. I want to sit there and say this again because I know I said it yesterday, but I was also really tired and I was still upset. I'm trying to sit there and say I was angry because I was angry, but I was more upset um at a show being canceled. And it I understand that in some ways it's kind of weird to be upset that a show got canceled because when you look at it, and I'm just gonna blather for a little bit so you can. This is the end of the review. Um, I understand that in a lot of ways it's kind of silly for somebody to get upset that a show gets canceled because at the end of the day, it's fantasy. You know, it's fantasy. It's a show, and in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of life, is not the most important thing in the world, and that is 100% true. But you know, everyone has their outlets. Everyone has their thing that they like to do to de-stress, to decompress from the rest of the world, from the craziness, from the madness, from the danger, from the stress, from all of that. Um, thinking about the song. But my point is, everyone has a way of decompressing, and for me, one of many things that I enjoy doing is to watch TV shows, watch movies, to get involved with somebody else's drama. Um, you know, I, sometimes even with these shows, like even with these soap operas, they'll have a certain topic that will apply to you in real life. Like stuff that's happened. This Is Us, and it gives you a different perspective of sometimes how to go about things. It's weird. I know that TV isn't really. And you look at a soap opera, it's like it's not really educational. But sometimes if there's a message in there and you can sit there and take it and you can apply it to your life, that's a good thing. But sometimes it's just nice to turn off your brain. And when you have a show that just gets canceled, um, for reasons that you feel is unfair, it does mess with you on a certain, I guess, psychological note. You know. So as silly as it is, just saying, I was upset that a show of mine got canceled. It's like, no, I was upset that something that I generally love watching that de-stresses me from the norms of the day to day that I deal with or that I do is gone. You know, it's gonna upset me. It's just that's just the bottom line. Um, but with that being said, I put out a video. I wound up erasing the video, but I put it out because I felt like this is a way for me to sit there and get out my feelings, my thoughts. I said yesterday that a lot of times doing these videos is can be therapeutic because it's like a diary, a journal. It's the same thing. I don't care if a man sits there and calls it a diary. It's the point is, it's just I felt like I needed to do it. Um, and it's interesting too because even with DC Sanctuary, there's sometimes where he, be caught up with life and he doesn't always sit there and do videos. But then there's times where something so crazy happens that he just has to talk about it. And I fully get that. Is one of the things that I really like when I'm working with DC Sanctuary is that when he talks about something like, I got to get this off my chest, I got to sit there and really talk about it, that's exactly how I feel. Oh, that's actually what started me on doing these reviews. Is that I got so pissed off with Nina and the whole Willow Tate thing. And even after writing a message on Brock TV's page, which probably wasn't really nice, because I was really pissed off. It didn't work, and I just got my phone out and I started talking. I felt so much better, and it was also pretty fun. So, you know, X amount of time, and I'm still here. But yeah. Anyway, point is, I'm apologize for it coming out so late. I think that's what I was eventually trying to get to. But I felt like it was something that was needed, and I felt like if I didn't do it, then the review would have came out. It would have came out the same, but I would have felt better about getting that stuff off my chest before I started to go into the review in a way where I could just focus on that and not deal with, you know, X, Y, and Z, aka the show. And by the way, I'm talking about Legacies, which is a video I'm going to be putting out later on tonight. I'm not OCD about it and making sure that it's not as perfect as it can be. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble for the 11 minutes that I did. Really appreciate it. I always really appreciate everyone watching my videos. It is the one joy that I really, and one of many enjoys that I really do have is having people watch my videos, reading the comments, and just reading everyone else's perspectives on what they think is right and what they think is wrong and why not. It's a fun ride, and I'll say that. So that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe, and I'll see you in the next video.